Thank you very much for joining me today, and why don't you start by telling us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
So my name's Alana McKenzie, and I am a writer who also owns a small publishing business in Vancouver, BC called Willow Lane Publishing, and I use it to publish my novels. I've published 2 novels through it so far, but I hope to branch out and do other work through it as well.
And what are those novels?
So they are part of a series called the Jade Chronicles, and the first one's called the Jade Rebellion, the second is called the Jade Talisman, and they are both science fiction fantasy novels, I would say, although they could probably fit into other genres as well, like young adult or dystopian, and they basically follow a story of a young computer programmer who lives in a dystopian world hundreds of years in the future that's ruled by artificial intelligence. It follows his adventures with a group of rebels while they try to overthrow the artificial intelligent rulers.
That sounds really cool. Where would I find this? If I wanted to read those novels, the 2 that are published so far, where would I find them?
Well, they're available at most online booksellers like Amazon and Barnes & Noble. They're also available at a locally based Vancouver sci-fi fantasy bookstore called White Dwarf Books.
Cool. Well, I'll have to check out White Dwarf Books. Where is that, out of curiosity?
That is, I believe, 10th and Alma Street in Vancouver.
Okay. What inspired you to start writing? Especially, I mean, that genre is a very particular genre, but when did you start writing and what inspires you?
Well, I started back in 2015 on the first novel. And I was really just motivated to write because I've always loved sharing and creating and telling stories. And since I have a busy day job, I didn't really have time to take it on as my full-time career. So I decided to start a publishing business to be a way for my novels to get out into the world. And I found that was a really interesting thing at first because I wasn't really experienced in the whole business and marketing aspect, and I just liked to write the novel itself. Yeah. But as I went on with the business, I found that I really enjoyed those other aspects of it, which were quite interactive, like dealing with editors and formatters and doing all of the marketing by myself from scratch. I found that really challenging and interesting.
Yeah, I bet. And you said you had a full-time job. When I think, oh, the easier route, it would not be necessarily to start a publishing company, but it sounds like that you explored all those avenues and that was the way to go. How long does it take you to typically write a book, and what is the process?
Yeah, so it takes me from the initial conception of the ideas to the final publishing process, probably about 2 to 3 years. Well, for each of the novels that I've written so far, at least.
Wow.
And I'm on track for the 3rd installment in the series to be around that same time frame. So I feel like I tried to get it done fairly efficiently, but I'm definitely helped a lot by other people in this process. Right. I don't just do it by myself, of course. And it's definitely a help to have feedback from others and my editor, who I've worked with closely on both of the projects so far.
I think there's a lot of people out there who dream of becoming a writer, and since you're a sci-fi writer, we'll aim in that direction. But like you said, 3 years is a daunting amount of time, and obviously it's more than just that, because you didn't just walk into the room and go, I'm going to write a book today, and go 3 years.
Yeah,
clearly there's inspirations and a process out there. So maybe you could elaborate on what that is.
Sure. So I feel like for my first novel, I was inspired a lot initially by just listening to music. And just some of the ideas and themes that came up in songs that I liked inspired me. I'm also inspired by fantasy novels. Like one of my favorite series is like Lord of the Rings. Mm-hmm. And also The Witcher is another one that's really inspired me to write in that genre. But aside from that, I've been inspired by going to like writers' conferences and workshops. And also just networking with writing community in Vancouver, because I found there's a lot of opportunities to do that at local meetups and events. I'm also inspired by places that I like Egypt is one of my personal fascinations. I really like the country and the ancient history, and so I was inspired to write about something related to spirituality. And I've also been really interested in technology and thinking about like the ethical implications of technology and how that connects with artificial intelligence. So there's all these kind of themes, like the environment is another one that I'm passionate about personally, and all those themes kind of I wanted to convey through a message, in my work. So I guess that's how I kind of came up with this world.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. And do you actually, on the topic of ethics and AI and all of that, do you have any fears around what's happening now in our world, where we're reaching a point where AI is exponentially growing in its ability or its capability? Or do you have any thoughts around that? I mean, obviously, I don't want to dig into your book too far, but clearly you have at least a fantasy idea of what could happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's definitely concerns. I don't think it will necessarily reach the dystopian level of AI robots taking over the world.
No Terminator.
Like Terminator, yeah. But no, I think it's just an interesting way to explore themes of whether it's controlling us in our day-to-day lives through like surveillance and other means like social media or technology that might be kind of changing the way we think about the world.
Right,
So,
At bare minimum,
influencing us, yeah.
Well, that's really interesting. I am going to go on Amazon. You said I could find it there, right? I'm gonna buy the novel and dive in, and I'm really looking forward to that. And it was really nice meeting you, and thank you so much for talking with me and getting yourself out there in front of a camera instead of a pen. I know you don't actually write with pens.
No, I work on the computer.
I figured as much. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.